Oh, baby. So I may or may not have just done an entire intro
I
and
want the same
tidbit.
energy. I want the same energy. It's a beautiful day.
It's a I had a song. I had everything, dudes. Well, first of all, hello everybody that's watching and listening.
Hello.
Yeah, normally when I hit the manage broadcast, go live button on OBS, it just automatically starts the stream. Today, I guess I didn't tick that box, and so it didn't. So I just sat here like singing and doing an intro for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Then Jor was like, did you actually go live? And turns out no. So here we are. Here we are. Hi, everybody.
Wow, that previous intro, yeah, people will never hear it, but I'm happy that I was there for it.
Yeah, it was like a
great.
private show, a private demonstration.
Yeah, we were even talking about how there was like a drought in. I'm trying to like think of the things you said, like a drought in July. Although I would argue, and yeah, we will like see that in this episode. There's still I like that for my feeling. There's more like news than normal. Which is interesting, like in this summer period. Normally it's really like, yeah, you can easily go on a holiday for like a month and not miss a lot. Maybe that's still kind of the case, but on the other hand, there have been a lot of leaks that have kind of kept the news mill going, if you can say it like that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so. There's enough to talk about. There's always a little bit of drama to cover, so we can do that. One of the things I mentioned in the fake intro was that I feel as though in July everybody's kind of burnt out a little. I think coming out of June, when we have all of the showcases and all the reveals and stuff, there's usually like 1 or 2 games that are revealed that dominate most of the attention, and everybody watches a ton of content on it, and they're just kind of burnt out and they need to take a break. And I think we're starting to come out of that. We've got a few big things launching. Today was the launch of the Atomic Heart DLC. If you want to go see my video with my thoughts on that, that's on my channel. And then tomorrow, Baldur's Gate launches on PC. It'll launch on consoles next month in September.
September 6th, same date as Starfield, but it only launches on PlayStation. So it's kind of like for the people that don't have an Xbox or PC, you can play Baldur's Gate instead on PlayStation.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, from everything that they've said, this game is like freaking gigantic. So I think you'll have plenty to sink your teeth into. But as for other stuff, we're just chugging along. We're headed into August. It's crazy that we're only like a month away-ish from the launch of games like Starfield, and Spider-Man is coming soon after. And we're just about to get a lot of really crazy releases. So it's a good time. I do want to just one little housekeeping thing just to let everybody know. We ran into a synchronization issue with our podcast hosting service Buzzsprout, which otherwise has been tremendous. It looks like just a couple of wires got crossed, so stuff wasn't synchronizing. I identified the issue, and starting with this episode, everything should be fixed, and you should get those things notified and sent out within just a few hours of the show. That's the that's the plan. But
some podcastception,
yeah,
as like a super chat. Because the Fantasy Files podcast has donated $5.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Hey guys, hope you're having a wonderful day. By the way, is it just me, or does Remnant 2 feel very last gen? Thank you for the content. Did you play any Remnant 2?
Yeah, I actually did on PC. And it is only on like newer gen consoles, right?
I think so.
I have to look that up because it's like there are still like quite a lot of games launching at the end of this year that are on like Mirage that are on all platforms.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, I think we're just getting out of that COVID spell where all of those games that would have released last year and the year before are releasing now, and so there's a lot.
It's only PS5, by the way, PS5 Action Series.
I think it looks
also
good.
Unreal Engine 5. Yeah, it's Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah, I think, honestly, from my perspective, Remnant 2 looks pretty good, but I just think, like, coming from the 360 to the PS4, there was a huge jump, not just in graphics, but also in, like, the scale that you could go with, like, the size of the levels, the detail in those levels. all sorts of crazy simulation stuff. So you play like a remaster of a PS3 game versus playing a PS4 or certainly PS5 game, and they feel totally different. Whereas going from PS4 Pro to PS5 doesn't feel that huge of a leap, because frankly it's just it's like a logarithmic scale. I can't talk today. It's just the return on the progress is just less and less every single time, so I think it just makes it a little less exciting. But
I would argue though that during that PS3, Xbox 360 era, we've been seeing like a lot of like blueprints for what the games are still today, and I think that is what Fantasy Files is kind of like hinting at here. Is like it feels like Remnant 2, even though it looks pretty and stuff. Like you go from, like, for people who haven't played Remnant 2, again, as I see people in the chat saying it's really, really good for what they're trying to do. It's like this looter shooter. You got the cool classes. They actually like are hiding classes that you can only find if you really look for them. But you're still going from this hub town to like an outdoor sort of dungeon that is very contained, and it kind of has like these loading screens similar to Borderlands, where all the like sort of areas feel pretty small, and then you go to a different dungeon. It's kind of like, I think like even like Phantasy Star, I'm not sure if you ever played that, like Phantasy Star Online. Like that's like one of the first games that I remember. Like Monster Hunter did it, of course, as well, where you have this hub town, then go out, do a mission, come back to this hub town. I think that is probably why, in my experience, like, let me know if you agree with that, Fantasy Files, why it kind of feels last gen, because like the sort of blueprint is really similar, but it of course looks way better than a PS4 Xbox One game could. And I do think that there are, and that's I think more exciting, like there are probably some things under the hood or happening in that game. Like you got many puzzles that have to be remembered, many items that you can like carry and stuff like that. Maybe that is not possible on the older gen hardware, but that because the blueprint is still very similar, it doesn't feel like a new gen game. Although we are going to talk about a story where a next gen only game is coming to PS4 and Xbox One, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, little bit to hook you into the episode, get you interested.
Cosmic is already Cosmic in the chat is already teasing it. Okay. Yeah, we will talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Also, Lord Kev, thank you for your membership re-upping. I appreciate you. You're both absolute legends. 1 month already feels like I've been here forever. Heck yeah, my friend.
Awesome.
Also feels like forever, but in a good way, because I know sometimes it's like feels like I've been here forever. It's like being at the DMV. It just sounds horrible. In this case, no, it's been like pure bliss for the last month.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got a handful of topics to go through. I want to kind of let these stories guide us through, but we're going to keep it kind of laid back, more relaxed approach to this. But you know what? We're just going to get the sad news out of the way up front.
No, I want to, because last week or like a few weeks ago, we like, just a suggestion, but because you have the thumbnail, you somehow you already know what the new Switch is looking is gonna look like because you put it in the thumbnail. But
we can do that.
Let's talk about that first, because I do think that if people like click on the video, they want to hear that news maybe first. We will of course have timestamps in the video as well, so you can like click through it if you're watching later. But let's do that first. Although we obviously normally don't really talk about Nintendo, I still think, yeah, this is pretty huge.
I agree, and I'll allow Jor to look out for you guys there, and I won't clickbait you too hard, making you wait later in the video for it. Yeah, why don't we just touch on that right up front? So I think we're all really excited for a Switch 2. I love my Switch, but that thing, it barely sees any mileage nowadays, except for Tears of the Kingdom. And it's not that I don't like the thing, it's just that it can't really compete with other consoles or platforms right now, especially in the age of the Steam Deck and all those. So third-party games aren't great. And we get like one first-party Nintendo game a year, maybe, that justifies its use. So I feel bad. Like I barely touched the thing except for Tears of the Kingdom.
I'm in a similar boat. I used to play a lot of Pokemon games on my handheld, but for some reason I just can't get into them anymore. Even if they like finally they were like trying something new with like the latest one that they released. can't even remember the name because there have been so many. It's like, I don't know.
Exhibit A.
Do you
Yeah.
remember? Yeah. People in the chat will let us know.
Point
I tried
proven.
it for like 2 hours and I was like, I just can't. This looks like a freaking Nintendo 64 game. But like, remember Stadium on 64 looked amazing, and this kind of looks like that. Either way, I am in the same boat, and I like the handheld always more than the Nintendo console, and I just feel that we didn't have a lot of handheld games. They did release Ghost Trick. I'm not sure if you played that.
No.
In this like a month ago from the Fenyx Wright makers, because I love Fenyx Wright, and that is like a gem. Like, it's a very old game, but they re-released it. So if you have a Switch and want like a cool sort of detective story with really cool plot twists and stuff, I can recommend that. But yeah, I already played that. I played a lot of ARMS, as I already told you, in the plane, and people were like looking at me, what the heck, why is he like
Just
punching
so
his
funny.
the neighbor in front of him? So I played some ARMS and some Splatoon. I'm a huge Splatoon fan, but Splatoon 3, booted it up, and I was like, yeah, sure, they added new weapons, and I don't know, like, what is next, right? I always like it when Nintendo tries new IP like Splatoon and like with ARMS, even though maybe that wasn't that great in the end. But we haven't really seen a lot of that. It feels like they're just repeating, okay, for every system we're gonna launch one Smash Bros, one Mario 3D game, now like, they're doing the same thing again. So,
Well, and
we will
even
see.
then, that barely holds true, because even Mario Kart on the Switch right now, I know it's got a lot of DLC and stuff, but it's just a port of the Wii U game. Like, it's just a port.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe they're just going to knock our socks off with this next Switch 2 or whatever they end up calling it. A Switch U, maybe? That would end great, right?
They won't go back to that. They won't go
Yeah, oh, dear God, please. But I mean, let's actually touch on what they've shown. So there were some leaks that came out. These were reported by Video Games Chronicle, who kind of collected all of them together. These are people that have development kits, because apparently some studios have actually already received dev kits, which is tremendous, because this is a full year ahead of schedule, or ahead of launch rather. So that's interesting. And as for individual tidbits, one of their main goals is that they're trying to make sure that they have enough stock that pretty much anybody who wants one on launch day can get one. I don't know if you guys
Still
remember.
Not gonna happen, though.
Yeah, it's still never going to happen. I don't know if you guys remember, the Switch back in 2017 was like impossible to find for 2-3 months. Like impossible. And that was pre-COVID.
Longer, feels like.
I think it depended on where you were. Where I was, it was, let's see, it launched early March, and then I was able to walk in and buy one, or like in May, and they had like 1 or 2 in the store at a time, so it wasn't like they just had ample stock, but they had enough. But in some parts of the world, it certainly was harder to get them than others. And again, that was pre-COVID. At least the PS5 and Xbox consoles that came out in 2020 had the excuse of COVID supply chain stuff. But this was just when everything was working fine, they couldn't supply enough. So they're apparently trying to work on that to make sure that they have ample stock available, which is cool. They also were told that this next-gen console is going to be used able to be used in a portable mode. So it seems like they're sticking at least to a semi-similar form factor as what we have now. As to whether it'll look like the Switch or maybe it'll look like, I don't know, a DS, I have no idea. I don't know if anybody's spoken to that, but at the very least, it seems like it's going to be one of those hybrid consoles, which I think is cool. It's one of my favorite things about the Switch.
For sure.
But here's where the disappointment kind of starts to set in. I saw Zach Plays mention this in chat. 2 different sources have reported to VGC that the console could launch with an LCD screen instead of a more premium OLED in order to bring down costs, especially considering the increased storage needed for higher fidelity games. The current Switch only comes with 32 gigs of internal memory, which is freaking hilarious, while other current gen PlayStation Xbox games often come in at over 100 gigs by themselves, much less, for the entire console. which is just kind of a bummer. Like if you guys have not seen the Switch OLED and compared it to the original Switch, it's not even close. Like it is stupid how much better the OLED looks. And to take people and be like, yeah, now you've got to go back. I'm sure the LCD is going to be improved and like look better than the original one back in 2017, but it still is a bummer because it frankly is a step back, and that's what it's going to feel like. I don't know, Jorab, am I overreacting? Are we being silly?
I never expected an OLED though, so it's not like it sucks to like read that because I trust VGC, so I do think that this is probably happening. But from their perspective, like it makes sense. Like they want to sell you the OLED model later on again, but it still sucks. Yeah, like it will be weird to like play a like higher fidelity. So the rumors before this, or I think even like Bobby Kotick said it during the FTC loss or trial against Microsoft, that they would have the power of the PS4 and Xbox One. So even though the games will look like better than the current Switch, it will like on this like 720p screen, because they might like keep 720. I can totally see Nintendo do that because it's like such a small screen anyways. It will still look worse because of the LCD versus OLED. So that kind of sucks. But like with the DS, you also had the large later. Like they did that all the time. So it's not a surprise, but it's still like disappointment for sure.
Yeah. Well, and if you guys remember back when the Switch OLED was still just a rumor, it was being leaked at the time. I just tried to find the article on it. I couldn't find it. But the original reports of a Switch OLED came because Nintendo purchased millions of these little 7-inch OLED 720p screens. And that stood out because everybody's like, okay, what the hell else are they going to do with 720p OLED screens? Okay. And apparently they got a great deal on them, and they were very, very cheap compared to what they normally would be, because it had something to do with the original manufacturer was shutting down production of screens like that. So they had this surplus. I don't understand of course, manufacturing of consoles like this, but that apparently had a lot to do with the Switch OLED even being created, that they got a really good deal on these screens, and that made it much more affordable. Frankly, it's unlikely that they are getting a similar deal for a next gen console, and so it's just a little bit of a bummer. Like I'm still gonna buy one. I think most of us are probably still gonna buy one because everybody loves Nintendo stuff. But in a perfect world, we would have an OLED screen. So that was kind of the first bummer bit, I think.
Do you think it's 4K though, with the dock?
I mean, it depends on who their chip partners are. I think probably more likely they do something kind of like the PS4 Pro did, where the dock, like, I don't know if they have like an upscaler built into the dock or what they do. But I mean, talking about costs, doing something like that, making the dock an actual like pretty expensive piece of hardware that's upscaling, that's not a layup, because right now the dock pretty much is just like a holder for it. Then you can plug in directly, and then it's like an HDMI output that reroutes it. It's a very simple piece of hardware. So maybe they just have it all native on the actual device, but again, I imagine that drives up costs. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it would be kind of weird though if it's not 4K, or if they maybe launched two docks, but that would make things super complicated, because usually the only complicated thing that Nintendo does is two colors. Like the Wii U was black and white, and the Switch also had like the colorful Joy-Cons and the gray ones.
But so, like, for sure, like you're saying, for sure they have to do 4K, right? Even in 2017,
I would imagine
people were like 1080p.
They can get away with it though.
Yeah, that's true. I just like, now I think when I was selling TVs in Best Buy and at Magnolia Home Theater back in like 2017-18, at that time, the standard size had just shifted from like 55 inches for a TV on average that we would sell to 65 inches. I spoke to a buddy of mine who still works there after all these years, and he said now the average TV that they sell is around 75 inches. So when you think of a 75-inch diagonal screen, 1080p on that frankly looks like ass. On a handheld, 720p works fine because it's so small. But on a big 75-inch
But
screen,
who has a 75-inch screen that is buying a Nintendo console?
well, anybody that wants to play like Mario Kart or something. Like
I mean, a
I
split
enjoy
screen is
playing it.
great on that, I would imagine.
Yeah. No, it can be. But like even I have upstairs in our family room, I have a projector that Hisense, shout out to Hisense, sent me, that is like 110 inches diagonally.
Damn.
This is like so stupid that if you do a 4-player split screen in Mario Kart, the equivalent size is that each person gets a 55-inch TV to themselves. I'm not even joking. Or like a 50-inch TV. It's just silly. It's like straight up stupid. And frankly, trying to play, like I tried to play Tears of the Kingdom on that big screen when it first came out, and it looked so rough. It was honestly a little jarring because you just don't realize what 1080p stretched up like that is like until you realize that each pixel is like 3 square inches. You know, it just like doesn't really work.
Sec Play says there are cables that you can buy for the current Switch to upscale it. So maybe they do it like that, although I don't imagine that the quality is that great. Although I'm like that they have like this regular dock and then they have this peripheral where you can upscale to 4K if you want.
Yeah, I've seen those cables, just for the record. And like I said, I used to sell TVs. So at one time I would have like been trying to sell people those cables, and they're all kind of BS. The only stuff that's actually upscaling, like I have, if you have a 40 series graphics card, you can try this right now. There's something you can go into the NVIDIA control panel with and do the super, I think it's called super resolution or something. And that basically allows you to upscale and like actually upscale, where it's actually using the same RTX DLSS algorithms to upscale a low resolution video up to 4K to fill your screen. And it does work, but that thing takes like a 4070 or a 4090 and spends like 20% or 30% of its compute power to do that. And so a cable's not going to be doing it. It just frankly won't. No. It just won't. But anyway.
Yeah, there's more news because when is it coming out?
So I'm trying to find the exact bit here. So this guy, Tokyo-based industry consultant, Dr. Serkan Toto, told VGC that a 2024 console launch would make sense for Nintendo since it's projected to see double-digit declines in Switch hardware and software sales this year alone, after it cleared 7 years in the market. He said, quote, "I would generally say that looking at Nintendo's financials, it seems clear that it's time for a new piece of hardware in 2024. Hardware is already projected to fall 16.5% year on year in the current fiscal year, while the minus for software is expected to hit 15.9%. The only way to stop these losses from totally ballooning next fiscal year is a new device. And the second half of 24 sounds like a realistic release window to me."
Yeah, and that's also what sources are saying to VGC. So the sources are saying that to VGC, and then this analyst is like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we got like 2 separate sources kind of talking about that. My question to you is then, what do you think the launch lineup will look like?
I mean, they're obviously, at least it seems obvious to me, I don't think they're launching it with a Zelda game at launch, so they're not going to be able to rely on that. I think the layup probably seems like a Mario game because we haven't had a new one from their first-party team since Odyssey.
Yeah.
That seems like a layup. Maybe they have honestly been working on a fresh new Mario Kart all this time, and that's what they're going to launch.
Yeah. I think that is like a lock-in. I think you can really lock that in because that's the ARMS team that made that, because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was the Wii U version that they added some stuff onto. So 100% that they've been sitting on this Mario Kart game. I think there were even rumors, I think, at one point that there was like this Mario Kart game in development. But I always go back, and I thought that was interesting, to what Ubisoft said about Mario plus Rabbids. So they, like Nintendo, like warned them saying, you should better hold on to that game until the next Switch, because that's what again Nintendo does. They launch one version of each type of game in one generation, and having Mario plus Rabbids, what you saw when that game came out, Sparks of Hope, the second game, was that the Kingdom Battle like increased in sales. People were like, whoa, I can also buy this similar game for $10. Why would I buy the new one for 60? So Nintendo said to them, wait for the next Switch and then launch the game. And I now see that like theory from their own theory, like they are going to apply that to all their games as well. And what's the best selling game on the Switch? Mario Kart. So having that day one on there is gonna be insane. Like that's gonna move units. That's gonna be the best selling game for the new Switch probably as well.
Yeah.
And they haven't had a new one, since. I mean, really, they haven't had a new one since Mario Kart 8 launched on Wii U. If you can really you don't
must be like a decade, or probably over a decade. Like that's crazy. So
Yeah.
I think those are no-brainers, and at least in my experience, it seems like 3 launch titles is really solid for most consoles. If they're specifically must-buy titles, like 3 games that you buy for your new console that you can play, each a little bit different. I think that is enough to buy like a couple months or a few months until third-party stuff comes out. So frankly, if they come out with an Odyssey or a Super Mario 3D game, and then they also come out with Mario Kart, and then maybe they have a big third-party title launching as well, that could be enough to grease the wheels.
Zombie U2. Zombie U2. Remember Zombie U from Ubisoft? It was there was like at the start of the Wii U, a lot of the games, of course, used the gimmick where you would look at the tablet and then not at the screen. And
oh yeah,
it was like a roguelite zombie game.
Oh dude, I
Ubisoft.
totally forgot about this. Oh my god.
Zombie U2. I think they even did a second game now that I think about it, but I might be wrong on that. Either way, Ubisoft is always there at the launch. Although with them like really focusing on the big Assassin's Creed titles, I can see them do like a RPG trilogy. Like if the Switch 2 is really PS4, Xbox One, I can see them launch Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla on the Switch. I think a lot of companies are gonna launch their PS4 games on the Switch too.
Yeah,
I think that's gonna make a lot of sense.
My question though is like, does that even have the same drive as when they were bringing like 360 games to the Switch? Because now there are new players in the market, specifically with cloud gaming, with like xCloud, and then also all the other handhelds you can get, like the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally or any of these other. PlayStation's about to launch one. Do you think that actually like drives as much attention or sales as it did with the Switch?
You mean xCloud versus like just having it natively on the Switch?
Yeah, I just mean like the market's changed since they were releasing 360 games back in 2018, 2019, and there's more competition now.
We haven't had like I mean, they did of course launch all the old Assassin's Creed games on the Switch, but we haven't had like an RPG game on the Switch. And I do think that would make a lot of sense, like because I think what you actually see with like streaming, and that's why I think they're kind of getting a pass, Microsoft, right now with their Activision deal, is that it's still like very, very early. Like not a lot of people are using xCloud, even though it's like pretty solid. But it's just not in people's minds yet that you can also play games that way. And the people that want to do that have a console anyway, or are up to date and have other better options. But like being able to play Odyssey on the road offline, I think is gonna be pretty cool. And a lot of people haven't played that game who only own a Nintendo platform, but heard good things about it. So I think there's a market for that, but even if there's not a market for that, they will do it because the Ezio collection, Black Flag, Rogue, like all those games are on Switch, even Witcher 3. So they're gonna like just port everything. And I personally think Mario Kart and the Mario 3D game too much at launch. What Nintendo really saw is we need to have a good launch year, because really the first year of the Switch, I would argue, is still the best year for the Switch. So I think it's going to be October launch or something, Mario Kart, Pokemon, like a brand new game in November, and then like maybe Mario in March or something, like that they really space it out. People are also saying Metroid Prime 4 that they already announced. Maybe that is the Breath of the Wild type of game that comes to the first Switch and the second one, because they already, I think, announced it for the first Switch. But yeah, who knows?
We'll see. I mean, it's gonna be exciting. We're gonna have like allegedly the PS5 Slim launching this year. Then we're gonna have Project Q soon after, and then we're gonna have potentially a PlayStation Pro or PlayStation 5 Pro, whatever that looks like.
2024 is gonna be huge. Yeah,
it's gonna be big. Xbox apparently is just totally sitting it out. There's been a lot of reports that they are just not at all interested in doing mid-gen refreshes, and we talked about this last week. They apparently consider the Series S to be the current gen console, and the Series X is their mid-gen refresh that they launched 3 years ago, because that makes total sense. Yeah. That's how that works. Stefan, thank you for the 25. Switch 2 needs to be as portable as Switch. Otherwise, some of my favorite games, Witcher 3, Cyberpunk 2077, are already playable on the deck. Hope Nintendo can pull it off. I hope so too. Whenever, like, Nintendo is very creative. I don't know if they honestly just do a straight up kind of reworked version of the Switch, or if they're going to try to do something really novel and different. I kind of hope for something crazy different, because I never knew I wanted a Switch until we got it. But
yeah, they always do it.
Well, we say always, but then we look at the Wii U, and that was like a huge stumbling block.
It was something completely different. Like, it was still a stumbling block, but it was still something different.
Yeah, it's just everybody thought.
I know, I don't want that, but I like, they have been saying this for the longest time, because that's of course where things have been moving, is that they don't want to reset everyone. Like that's of course what happened with the Switch as well, and I think every Nintendo console, that you have to buy all these games again. And now with Nintendo Online being way more prominent, I do think, and that's actually also interesting from the article, that they are like still unsure, or that it's like still not decided, which might seem weird because it's coming out next year, but about backwards compatibility, because actually publishers are saying, publishers have said to express concerns that legacy support for Switch games could negatively affect sales of next-gen titles. Like, I think Ubisoft is like, no, I don't want people to be able to carry over Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle or Sparks of Hope, because I want to sell them again.
Yeah,
and that's of course always been the case on Nintendo platforms, and I'm curious what they will do with that. But it would suck, and it would, like, for Nintendo, it would be really great if all your Switch games would work, and like it would be amazing if Tears of the Kingdom is only 60 FPS on the Switch too, right? That would be like a dream come true. But yeah, we will have to wait and see.
It's gonna be really fascinating, because Nintendo can get away with a lot. Let's be honest. So if they came out and they said, nope, Switch games don't work on this, whatever they call this, maybe instead of the Switch, it's the click or something, and instead of clicking like or snapping their hands, they just like clap randomly. It'll just one gimmick for another. But it's going to be fascinating to see, and I think everybody is waiting with bated breath to see what this actually is like.
And they're probably going to do a 1-2 Switch 2.
1-2 1-2 Switch 2, with the third one coming soon after 1-2 Switch 3. Oh my god. Midikar Marius, thank you. To me, the Switch seems like the design Nintendo had worked towards since the NES and Game Boy. I can't see them going away from this design. I think you could have also said that about the DS as well, though. And they walked away from the DS because of the Switch's success. So I guess if we look at maybe an archetype of what they're going to be doing with this next release, maybe it's just going to be the new DS thing, where they just will always have basically a Switch, and they add a second screen maybe to it, or something a little bit different.
That actually doesn't, because that actually doesn't, because I think what the person here is saying, Midtoker, is that they are right, because the DS was kind of the Wii U in a way, only you could detach the screens, or you had like two screens. So, and the Switch was kind of like what the Wii U tried to be, because the Wii U, you could not take it anywhere else. You were attached to the screen. So maybe that I think that's a pretty solid like idea, that it's like two screens, or like like a DS again, but then you detach once. I don't know how that's gonna work. Nintendo will figure it out. But then we go back to the 2 screen, because I did like some of the things they did, with your inventory always being visible on the bottom screen. I liked Metroid controls with the stylus, like using that as your analog stick. I love that stuff. But yeah, let's see.
Yeah, we're all super pumped, and I cannot wait to see what they do with it. So there's that. Where do you want to go to next in our collection of?
I'm already crying.
That tells me all I need to know. Everybody, F's in the chat for Mr. Joe Raptor. F's in the chat. This is very sad. Also, thank you, Zoob, for the 2. I'm waiting for the PS5 Slim and the Spider-Man 2 bundle. I don't know if they're going to do a Slim bundle with Spider-Man, because they already announced they're doing the regular one. They might not have the inventory for it, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, take your hats off as a condolence. What happened, Joe Raptor? What happened? Sources.
1 second.
Okay. Okay. I'll let you do it. Okay. He's just collecting himself. Everybody be respectful.
I don't believe it. Multiple development sources told VGC, so we're staying at VGC. Follow-up game for Immortals Fenyx Rising. It was in early development, but the company leadership ultimately decided to cancel it earlier this month due to perceived challenges around establishing the IP. So it's not gonna happen, Luke. It's
not happening.
It's over. The dream. It was
Yeah.
a fun game. It was like this is one of those games where if they had the sort of like, you saw a lot of ideas, but they also used a lot of ideas from, of course, Zelda and Odyssey. They reused a lot of assets, but what they were doing, like with this next one that now got canceled, it's like almost, it's like 100% confirmed, because Ubisoft even like responded to this report that we will talk more about, and like they did not say no, it's not true. They actually gave us a little more context, so we will go over that. But yeah, it really felt like a fun, like they were going to the Polynesian and the Hawaiian setting, so yeah, a little sunny. It had some Wind Waker like things, because actually Jonathan, French YouTuber, who has been right many times before with Ubisoft stuff, he actually leaked some details as well, so that you would have like a boat and would be island hopping, and also that we could actually transform into creatures, into a chicken to run faster, and a whale to glide through the air, and among the enemies we encountered were sharks with legs. So it seemed that they were really trying something new, and we would not be battling minotaurs that we all saw in Odyssey in this game, or the Cyclopses and stuff like that. But no. According to the sources, which again has been confirmed now, is that sources told VGC future plans for Immortals were cast into doubts after the company decided to pivot towards its most prominent brands. And it's, I think, also something you discussed, like even in a recent live stream, where Ubisoft is going all in on Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Tom Clancy. And yeah, why spend probably not similar amount, but still like a AAA budget on a game where it's like, is it gonna make its money back? Will it like be a big IP we can work towards? No, let's go for the safe option right now, because Ubisoft kind of needs the wins. So what they also said is that Immortals Fenyx Rising, so the first game, did find a modest audience, but a lot of it came via discounting. And to put into context, its sales in Europe were around 70% lower than what Assassin's Creed Valhalla managed to achieve over a similar time frame. I would counter that saying 30% of the sales for Assassin's Creed Valhalla in Europe, for like Valhalla, which is the most popular Assassin's Creed game to date, still pretty good for a new
that's
IP.
like,
although
that'll do. Like,
yeah.
Valhalla apparently broke like most of their revenue records, especially for the franchise.
$1 billion revenue for the first time.
Yeah.
On Assassin's Creed.
Like, I have to wonder, maybe it depends on how they're defining it. Maybe they're saying sales were 70% lower. That doesn't say revenue. It just says sales. So maybe that's units. And if those units were only moved by discounting it like 60%, then it's not actually performing as well as it might initially seem. But it's just a big bummer. Like, the game wasn't great or anything, but it was something different. It was like a goofy Zelda inspired adventure puzzle game, and while it wasn't, like I said, great, I think it still was fun, and at like 30-40 bucks it was a no-brainer. So it's just a bit of a bummer. And they said that they were early on in development, so they didn't get too far. However, it just is, once again, like you said, another verification that Ubisoft is slowly but surely shifting into an Assassin's Creed and Far Cry and occasionally Tom Clancy machine, and that's what they're going to just continue pumping out. And it's the same exact thing we saw with, for example, Activision and Blizzard, where they used to put out a ton of stuff. Same with like Rockstar themselves. They used to put out a ton of different things, different projects relatively quickly, and then eventually they all settle down and specialize in just one thing that's pretty much guaranteed to make a ton of money. And it's frustrating for those of us that like the other stuff that they did, but it's also just the reality of the situation. Believe it or not, it's expensive to make a game with thousands and thousands of employees. And so they have to only put their chips on what they think is going to return.
Yeah. And it's like those developers are at Ubisoft Quebec, and if they are not working, or if they are working on Immortals, they're not working on Assassin's Creed Red, which will like blow Immortals out of the water. So that's kind of the harsh reality. Ubisoft actually like responded to this article saying that they will be reallocating some creative teams and resources within the Quebec studio. As part of our global strategy, we are redirecting and reallocating some creative teams and resources within the Quebec studio to other unannounced projects. The expertise and technologies these teams developed will serve as an accelerator for the development of these key projects focused on our biggest brands. And we have nothing further to share at this time. So, yeah, what we're saying, like, they saw this, like, Immortals team having some fun over there, and they were like, we could use some people on Red. And, yeah, they have some other projects that will, they think, make more money. Stop having fun. Come over here. We need someone to make, like, a cool samurai sword that we can sell in a Helix pack. That's going to make more money.
For 20 bucks a pop, yeah. What really frustrates me about all this, though, is that they said, according to their sources, they decided to cancel it earlier this month due to perceived challenges around establishing the IP. All of those challenges were known years ago. When this game originally launched, all of those challenges were known. So it's just another example of Ubisoft spending millions and millions of dollars and wasting years of time working on projects that they could have known from the start were not going to turn the profit that they were hoping it would. It's like they just hoped that they would eventually stumble into some solution where, oh, we just cracked the code and now it'll sell 1 million or 2 million copies. And it just doesn't work that way. It's like that, I forget who reported it originally, but over the last like 5, 6, 7 years, Ubisoft has burned over $500 million on projects that have never seen the light of day, whether you look at their NFT stuff or canceled games or games that released and just lost money. Just time and time again, they have done this. And there's no one to blame, to be clear, except for the executive management that greenlights projects.
Yves Guillemot.
And the Guillemot brothers, they are the ones that you got to point to, because they're the ones making these decisions. So it's just frustrating.
Also, yeah, for sure. And also Immortals, like they say again, 30% of what Valhalla is sold. Like that game came out. Like let's go back to 2020. We had Watch Dogs Legion at the end of October. Then they had Valhalla on November 12th or something, or November 10th, and then they had Immortals December 3rd. Like they put 3 of their major open world games that all cost 50 hours at least to complete, like in a few weeks from each other. And Immortals also came out 1 week before Cyberpunk. So they also kind of send it out to die.
Mm-hmm.
And it still managed to find an audience that really likes it. It also did really well on Switch. Like this could be Ubisoft's like cool Switch title for the Switch 2 if they started earlier, because again, like you said, why wait till like probably maybe early this year or something when they started, because if it was still early, that's what I'm guessing, when you already knew the sales numbers. And yeah, the Switch 2 is eventually coming. Like, this would have been a perfect Switch 2 launch game.
Yeah.
And yeah, probably be great. But yeah, on the other hand, I don't know if like I can't blame them is the right word, but if you like really look at it from a business like perspective, it's like, okay, this is going to be still a gamble, and these people are not working on an Assassin's Creed Red expansion that is probably gonna sell more, and that's kind of what they're looking at. Because we also got Steven Totillo, actually, who also has a lot of sources inside Ubisoft. So he asked around. I heard that Immortals 2's focus on Polynesian gods was promising and being handled well, but it sounds like AC Red Dawn is the priority at the Quebec City studio right now. Notable that Ubisoft's statement says staff is being moved to unannounced projects, which I'm sure is the case for many, but the expectations from people I spoke to close to Ubisoft was that Red could use more people, as does Hexe, as Ubisoft bets on AC for the future. So, look, if Red has to launch next year, like that's the plan right now, and if they're really seeing, okay, we need more people because otherwise we probably won't make it, or launch like another really poor version, just like they did with Valhalla. Like, remember, that game was pretty broken when it came out. Okay, let's put those guys or girls away from Immortals and have this be in a better state. That could also be the situation here. It's still sad, though.
Yeah.
It could have been better managed, it feels like.
Yeah, it's just another casualty at the foot of Assassin's Creed. I'm sorry, everybody, but Ubisoft's going all in on it, and maybe it's going to be great. Like I said before, maybe in a few years we're going to look back and be like, oh my god, I'm so glad that they decided to cancel all these other projects and just focus on AC, because these are so good. But it might also be the case that in a few years we start to feel burnout, and we're going to be missing games like these. So what are you going to do? Sure. What are you going to do? Whine about it, and maybe they'll change their mind. I don't know.
Kieran is saying Ubisoft bets on AC, but Massive Entertainment doing their own thing. I'm really getting like Respawn vibes from Massive Entertainment, because they are indeed, of course, doing the Avatar game and the Star Wars Outlaws, which look phenomenal. I'm still not sure about the Avatar game, but Star Wars looks insane. And yeah, they are kind of on their island. You go focus on your Ubisoft stuff. We're gonna make like a Star Wars game, and let's hope that that's good. So yeah, but it's still like big brands, right? And yeah, that's why I was kind of surprised to see a new Prince of Persia game.
Yeah.
Even though that Prince of Persia game will probably be like Ubisoft pointing, see, we tried it, you did not buy it, we're going back to Assassin's Creed.
See, okay, now everybody shut up. We tried it, it didn't work, shut up. Yeah. We'll see. I mean, maybe it's going to be really good. I don't know. I'm interested in it, but at the full price, or the close to full price that it's launching at, I'm just like,
yeah,
I don't know, man. Anyway, it's sad, but it looks like we won't be talking about Immortals Fenyx Rising and a sequel, at least for a very long time. I'm very sorry, Joe Raptor.
And Watch Dogs, man.
And Watch
Let's
Dogs.
not get started about that.
That was so heartbreaking. I'm actually working on a video, just a little sneak peek for everybody. I'm working on a video specifically on Watch Dogs Legion, because it is like the most impressive game that nobody played in so many ways. Like the tech they have running in that is crazy, but it's like they came up with this idea for a really cool set of systems, and they just totally forgot they were making a video game and that it had to be fun. So then they had this amazing thing working where you can play as any NPC in the city, and they all have voice modulation, and they basically become the main character once you start playing. But nobody during development stood up and went, okay, but how does this make the game more fun? It's cool, but like, why are we doing this? And when the game launched, everybody was kind of like, everybody felt the same way. They're like, that's cool, but it's
and
just
they could not
fun.
market it, because all the gameplay you saw were like these characters that sounded like robots. And it's impressive if you think about the fact that, sure, it still sounded like a grandma, but it did not sound like a voice actor went to a booth and really like made sure that the character was sounding right. So it was like, in every trailer, you did not see any familiar faces. There were, of course, some characters in the main story, but like the AI, Bagley, or I think its name is, was like the main character in a way. I don't know, man.
It's heartbreaking. That tech though, has so much potential. Even in something like a Sims type game, I think that has so much potential. Being able to simulate like an entire city of people, where you could have a simulated character, your character, going into like a cafe, and you could meet somebody, and then in a Sims type game, go all the way to like dating, marrying, starting a family, all just based on a random interaction like that. There's so much potential for that system, but Watch Dogs was a terrible franchise to use that tech in. But anyway, we'll get to that in a future video. What else do we have to talk about that's not as depressing?
Well, there are two ways we can go right now. So we can go, already teased it a bit, but there's, I don't think we have to talk about it very long, but it's still interesting that like a game that just came out on PS5, Xbox Series is also coming to PS4, Xbox One. And I thought it was interesting to talk a bit about Gamescom, because Xbox announced their huge plans. So there are two roads. Which one you want to?
Let's quickly touch on the next gen game that will soon be last gen. Let's touch on that.
Oh. I was surprised when I saw this, by the way, because EA had their investor call yesterday. I haven't listened to it yet. I will, because I'm a sucker for these kind of Andrew Wilson talking about all players across the globe. And I just love that. They're using so many words that you're like, wow, you really said nothing, but you were talking for like 10 minutes.
We want to empower players to have a great time in all of our games.
The passion of our development teams across the globe.
The amazing talent. Doing the weird thing that politicians do, where like they cradle their thumb for some reason and kind of point at you with the stub of their thumb. Now that I pointed it out, you'll never be able to unsee it. Politicians do it all the time. They're like, and let me tell you this. Like, what are you doing?
I thought they were holding like a device like for their PowerPoint presentation or something.
Maybe back in the day? I don't know. It's so like unnerving now. I see it all the time when they're talking and they go like this. And it's just the most uncomfortable looking thing. Like, just point at me. I'd rather that. It's like, just do that.
Anyway. That's harsh, though.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's interesting. No, but they announced that Star Wars Jedi Survivor, that is... they will harness the community's passion and capitalize on key Star Wars franchise moments to drive continued engagement for this incredible game. That's a real quote that they said.
A human being said that.
So, and thanks to the strength of our development team has committed to bringing Jedi Survivor experience to PS4 and Xbox One. And the game can't even run properly on
That's where
Xbox
I'm at,
Series
dude.
and PS5.
It like doesn't run well even now, and they're gonna get this working on like the equivalent of a potato. Like, come on, what are we doing? And you're right, like the way he phrases this: over the coming year, we will harness the community's passion and capitalize on key stars. I just like a human being speaks like this is just amazing. I mean, but it's also, I guess, not a surprise, because there are still millions and millions and millions of Xbox One and PS4 players out there that frankly don't have the money, believe it or not, to drop
still want to play Star Wars.
Yeah. And if this were available to them, it's much more palatable to purchase what's going to be probably a $60, $70 game for their outdated console, instead of having to pony up $550 or $600 for all of it for the next gen console. So I'm not saying it doesn't make sense, but it's baffling that they're doing this before they've even fixed the current gen stuff.
Yeah, that's one side of it, and the other side is just disappointment. Like, I thought Jedi Survivor was gonna be that next step. Was like, we're almost 3 years into this life cycle, and we're getting games that pretend that they are exclusive, but that can still run on then you're not like, this is basically the same as Hogwarts Legacy, but only there they were upfront about like saying, hey, this is basically a PS4 Xbox One game. We will launch it later on those platforms. They wanted to launch it the same day, but they pushed it. And eventually it came out in June, like 4 months, or no, even more. Like almost half a year after the game on PS5 and Xbox Series. And yeah, I mean, it's running on Unreal Engine 4, so it kind of makes sense as well. But I just thought they were doing that because Unreal Engine 5 was not really, like, I think, like, not a lot of developers were using it when they started Jedi Survivor at the start of 2020. So I really thought when they announced the sequel, or when I was like fantasizing about the sequel, whoa, this is gonna be the next step because it's gonna be PS5 exclusive. I did not think that 3 years in the life cycle we would still be having PS4, Xbox One games.
Well, I was just going to say, it reminds me of what a lot of these executives were saying, like back in 2018, 2019, where a lot of them were like, well, we don't see console generations as being as hard and true and hard and fast as they have been in years prior. We kind of see technology, I forget what executive said it, but they were like, we see the console market as a living, breathing market where all of the games should be able to launch and flow between each other. Basically, they wanted to make sure that they could launch a game like Jedi Survivor and also sell it to the 100+ million user base over here. At the same time, they're also capturing this newer fan base over here. And again, it makes sense, but like you mentioned, it is holding these games back. Like, they are not being designed in a way where the designers are like, okay, well, we're just going to make this and we're going to crank it to the max to use what the PS5 has to offer. And instead, they're constantly asking themselves, okay, but could this run on like a 2013 hard drive? Yeah? Okay, then we're good. And that's just frustrating. And you can feel it in the level design. You can feel it in how they build these things out. And hopefully, fingers crossed, in the next couple of years, once we start seeing more games like Spider-Man 2 and potentially even like Phantom Liberty and releases like that coming along that really push the technical boundary, we'll start to see more studios abandoning last gen. But it's frustrating, like you said, 3 years, almost halfway. I mean, at this point, we probably are halfway through the generation. And we're still seeing it.
And I can't remember a game like going back. Like, I think, because I think you're probably right. This was probably the plan from the start, but it's also usually they announce it from the start because then those people can get excited about the game as well. Like, now everyone who had a PS4 and Xbox One was already riding it off. Like, I'm not gonna get this console for the next 2 years, so I'm not gonna bother with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Like, maybe, and this might be a crazy like theory, maybe this was not the plan, but the sales are not as good as they expected, and they're like, how much does it cost to port this? How much are we probably going to extract? Let's do it.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if that was the case, because there's still an early phase of porting this game.
Yeah.
So probably 2024 when this PS4 Xbox One version is going to launch.
But I think you're right. Like, it could have gone either way. It could have been that they were planning on this from the start, and it was just like, oh, we're going to pitch it and sell it as the next gen version of Jedi Fallen Order. And so it's like, you got to buy it because it's the cutting edge version of that. We're going to have like ray tracing that barely works. Everybody loves that. And then they decided behind closed doors, then after everybody's given up hope that they can't play it, we'll announce that we're bringing it to the PS4, and those people will get super excited and hyped because now they can play this game they didn't think they could play. And so then we'll get both communities really excited, and the only time that we break the devastating news or the disappointing news to the people on PS5 and Series X is after they've already bought it. So we don't care. It makes sense. I would be shocked if they hadn't planned this, but it also I would totally buy.
Yeah, but then they would be farther along, and why not announce it at the same time? Like that's kind of my thought. But like you said, like they must be like making this game with a potential port in mind. Otherwise, you would hope that they go far beyond what is possible. On those platforms. Like,
have you seen those videos of Ratchet and Clank running on a hard drive? The PC port? It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And that's because they built the game at the very least, expecting very tight memory management, and then also potentially like the PS5 SSD speeds and everything involved there. And that's because that game is built for the current gen. At the least, that's what they pitched to everybody. But this thing, I try to think of something that Jedi Survivor does that couldn't, in theory, work on a last gen console in terms of like scope or scale, and there really isn't anything. Like, it's very, very similar in
Oboe
scope.
is gonna be like a frame drop fest though. Like that already has issues like running normally on a newer gen console. Like, they are doing some interesting things where the world is repopulated at some point with new enemies, and they're constantly like fighting each other. Maybe they're dialing stuff like that back because Fallen Order did not really have those moments. But yeah, we will see. I'm happy for more people that they can play it. Like, that's another way to look at it, I guess. But I just wish that now, like, if you are someone like, you also want the best, what is best for the games. And the best for the games is now to finally move on.
Yeah, from the 10-year-old hardware, for the love of God. Okay, next little tidbit, Xbox at Gamescom. For those of you not familiar with Gamescom, what is Gamescom, Joe Raptor?
It's the biggest gaming convention in the world in terms of the amount of people that go there. Like, of course, I'm not counting like PAX and stuff because that's way more going on. But like, really only focused on games. Obviously, they have like a merch stand and stuff like that. But it's like really mostly focused on, hey, you come here to play games. And I think there are like 100,000 people in total, probably more. But it's like insanely huge. It's like multiple days. It starts on Wednesday, which like a media only day, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you have like the public days. And if you like look up any images or videos, you know what I'm talking about. It's like crazy. Like, you're cramped. It's after they like it's like with COVID, we were like not used to be close to people. This like the complete opposite. You're hugging strangers all the time, basically. And you want to play a game, but then you see, oh whoa, this like a line is like 6 hours. I'm not really selling it. I have
It
been
sounds
lucky
horrible.
I've been lucky enough to. It's more like community for people. Like, there are a lot of cosplayers, of course. You go there with your friends. You do see the cool booths, and it's just cool to kind of see what type of games are coming out. But just don't expect to be able to play them, or you're probably like standing in line for like a beta that is already out. That like what they did for Call of Duty, for example, was that okay? You could like stand in line 8 hours for a Call of Duty beta that would happen the weekend after, that you could just play at home, stuff like that. So these things have kind of changed. They do, like, Xbox is now bringing some cool stuff though, and as said, I've been lucky enough because they do have like a completely separate media area. So even during the public days, you can just go to this media area, and if you have then appointments, you can just like go behind closed doors and be in a chill room, talk to developers and stuff. So it's really nicely organized for business, but for I would not recommend going there if you were just going there for fun, unless like for people in Germany, they probably like live close by or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like E3 in 2019 when I went, right before they shut it down and everything. It was like being pitched as being, I don't know what you'd say it, just like non-industry friendly. Like, you could just come in, and then as a gamer, it was going to be friendly and enjoyable to you. But that was just like a total lie. Like, the lines were insane. You might be able to play one game a day, and that was for like a 5-10 minute demo. And it was just kind of miserable. The entire thing was clearly built for media and devs, but mostly media, to hang out and to create content, which is why they literally had a second floor. I don't know if Gamescom does that, but a lot of the booths have a second floor in the Los Angeles Convention Center. And on that second floor, it's like a balcony that overlooks the whole show floor. And you can just like look out and chill. There's snacks up there. You meet like YouTubers, streamers, whatever up there. But all of the normies have to walk around on the floor like a bunch of peasants. It just was really distasteful. I went as a regular gamer, and I was like, there's literally like people in an ivory tower up there, like that we don't get to interact with. It was.
And sometimes they throw like a snack down, so like people.
They're like, you can have my Cheetos, and then they sprinkle it down. It just left a weird taste in my mouth. But
no,
anyway.
I totally get that. Gamescom has been doing this for ages now, so they kind of know. And if you go there, you kind of know what you're getting into. E3 was like, we have to like we're not sustainable as a media event, so we have to bring in people. But then you had everyone, suddenly having to completely change their like it's completely different to have like regular people versus like media that brings like a writing like that wants to make notes, that wants to talk to people. Like that's completely different than having like a line and stuff for people that just go there for fun. So, but the Gamescom has been better with that, and I usually try to avoid the show floor anyways. But they do have like a big like last year I heard it was not that big. Like before COVID it was huge, but then of course people started to realize I don't need to spend a lot of money on a show floor and and just do a direct or something and it will be fine. But now Xbox is bigger than ever. Back they will have 30 titles across 150 stations. Okay, that sounds like a lot, but okay, 150 stations for, like I said, tens of thousands of people. That's not a lot at all. Not a lot. Like no. You're gonna see like signs saying if you stand here, you're gonna wait for 5 hours.
Yeah.
So there will be photo ops, experiences, and a specially constructed 300-seat theater. Like these theaters were actually nice because they had like a 15-minute sort of window. More people could sit there. You had a higher chance of getting in. But yeah, they will have one for Starfield and Forza Motorsport. But then it's always a coin flip. What are they going to show? Like, is it something that will be dropped as a trailer the next day? Or is it something like, is it someone from Bethesda playing a mission or something? That could be cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, they will have that as well. And the games that you can actually try and play there, Stalker 2, Payday 3, which will launch a few weeks later on Game Pass. The Phantom Liberty DLC for Cyberpunk. I'm trying to get in there because I'll be going to 2 days this year. So I'll be trying getting my hands on the Phantom Liberty DLC. And Armored Core 6 will also be playable, although that's coming out like a few days later. So
yeah.
But I still think people will be like happy that they can play that. They have some other smaller games as well, but it's pretty cool that they are going back there full force. While in Europe, Xbox is way smaller than PlayStation, and Sony is not going to be there.
Yeah, it's refreshing to see Xbox take this kind of thing really seriously and try to be a large presence in the community. And I love this kind of thing. You know, it's always frustrating when you're a gaming fan and you go to something like this and then it's only like mobile games or Genshin Impact with a new skin is there and you can play that, but nothing that you really want to see is there. So the fact that they're coming out swinging with some pretty big titles, even titles that they don't have direct involvement in, they'll seemingly be hosting as part of their show in their theaters and stuff. Yeah. That's really cool. And it bears in mind, like, it's what drives me crazy. People, I saw somebody on Twitter was saying, rumor, which is funny because they just say rumor as if that means that you should take it seriously. But they say rumor, Sony to buy CD Projekt Red and make the next Witcher games exclusive and all this. And I'm like, if anything, CDPR has a much better relationship with Xbox. Like, and they have for years. They announced Cyberpunk 2077 with Keanu on stage at the Xbox show. Like, they've got the relationship there. And to see them also buddy with From Software is crazy too. It's just all told, it's really, really cool to see them.
That's more Bandai Namco though, the Armored Core stuff, I would imagine.
I guess technically,
but and you have to remember that Sony delisted Cyberpunk from their PlayStation Store for like 6 months. Yeah. So they have like a pretty poor relationship, I would imagine.
That's why it's so funny that people are like, yeah, now they're gonna swoop in and be best friends. It's just like, guys, what are we talking
money
about?
Can solve everything. I mean, maybe money can, I don't know, but like I do think like it is a solid pickup if you can pick up CDPR, because especially like bringing them under a sort of exclusive like a console brand, they still have like some I mean, we will see with the Phantom Liberty DLC if people are still going to be like, oh, I'm not gonna play it because Cyberpunk sucked at launch. But I still think that having like the Xbox exclusive, mark or PlayStation exclusive mark will have people forget even more easily. But
yeah, it's a huge grab if they can do it. But as we've said
Yeah.
before, like they have never, as far as I've seen, expressed interest in being acquired. And as we saw with Vivendi and Ubisoft back in like 2014, if a company doesn't want to be acquired, that becomes what's known as a hostile takeover, and those get real messy real quick. And especially if you're talking about like huge companies trying to acquire each other, or a big company try to acquire a little one through a hostile takeover, regulators get involved at that point. It just gets real nasty real quick. So I would not expect anything like that.
Did you see the Tencent Techland thing though?
I don't.
That they now
think
own a
so.
majority stake in Tencent, so they basically own them without like fully owning them or something. But they basically injected a ton of money into Techland. And Techland still owns their IPs, but yeah, they're basically part of Tencent now, in a way.
Yeah, teaming up with Tencent will allow us to move full speed ahead with the execution of the vision for our games. We have chosen an ally who has already partnered with some of the world's finest video game companies and helped them reach new heights while respecting their way of doing things. Yeah, basically, if you're not familiar with Tencent, they have stupid amounts of like mobile game money, and they've been trying to get their hands into a lot of different pots. And one of the ways they've been doing that is by investing in technically minor positions within huge game companies that you recognize. Like Ubisoft, they bought 49% of the Guillemot Brothers holding company that owns their shares that own a large chunk of Ubisoft. So they have been getting more and more involved. Thankfully, it doesn't seem like they're getting so involved that they like change how things are done, as far as I can tell. Yet. But yeah, they're getting very involved, and as is like the Saudi Arabian government, they've also been investing like crazy into some of these big companies.
Yeah, even more scared for that though. That's not good. That's not good. But yeah, Tencent, of course, from China, and they see like China has like crazy regulations where a lot of people can only play mobile games for a certain amount of hours per day. So like the government can like change their thoughts in like one day, and then it really like takes a really huge toll on Tencent's money. So that's why they are going to these Western companies and investing in those to get a bigger foothold in the industry and go from there. But Techland, I mean, for Techland in the short term, they're making this huge open world like fantasy RPG, and I see they're now hiring for Dying Light positions as well. I really thought that they were going to just like live support. I mean, they're still doing DLC, but very slowly like supporting Dying Light 2 while being fully focused on this new game. Seems like they can now do both things from what I quickly saw. But yeah, that's what I wanted to. I thought it was interesting to throw that out there as well. So yeah, Gamescom, I will be going there, and I will have a report here on the podcast when I get back.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be great. I'm a little jealous. I'm gonna try not to vocalize it too much, but I'm very jealous, you son of a bitch. So very jelly. Anyway, let's see. Thank you, Stefan, real quick for the 25 round. Can you talk at some point about how hostile takeovers work? EA tried at some point to take over Rockstar, which is baffling to me. I mean, basically just in its simplest form, if a company goes, or like even an individual like Elon Musk goes to a like publicly traded corporation and says to the board of directors, I want to buy your company. I will offer you X amount of dollars for every share of the company. Let's do it. The board of directors that has control of the company, if they think that that's what's in the best interest of the investors, of the shareholders, and that's what they want to do, then depending on a lot of technical crap in the operating agreements, in the paperwork of the actual like corporations, founding documents and things, then, or incorporating documents, then they can say, yes, we'll sell to you. So in the case of Elon Musk buying Twitter, or what's now X, they can basically say, this is good for everybody, you're going to like it, okay? And then they sign up for it. So even if you held shares of Twitter the day before that deal closed, it didn't matter if you didn't want to go along with this. They said it's going, they have control of the company, so you're going to sell. The company's selling, and you'll get your pay for the share at the offered price, but that's what it is. In the case of like Vivendi going after Ubisoft, they came in and they said, we want to buy up a controlling share in Ubisoft so that then we have control, and then we can just like either sit there or we can buy out the rest of it and choose to sell all of it to us. But we want that controlling share. And Ubisoft's executives, specifically the Game On brothers, didn't want to sell. They didn't want to lose control of their big behemoth. So they started buying back shares. They started issuing more shares. They started trying to make deals with other members of the board and people who owned controlling stakes to prevent them from selling off their shares to Vivendi. And it just gets really, really nasty very quickly, because then there's lawsuits filed where, hey, the board of directors issued all of these shares, but they did it too quickly. They didn't disclose it far enough in advance. This isn't fair. So it just gets really gross. And the only people that really win are the lawyers. So that's why I don't see Microsoft trying to do a hostile takeover. They're going to offer a stupid amount of money if they're going to try to buy somebody, like they did with Activision. And that's usually enough to grease the wheels. It's when a company comes in and tries to basically take it over at market price, which is what Vivendi tried to do with Ubisoft, that you run into trouble. Because who knows?
Yeah, and like you said, it's like a very sneaky game, because the company doesn't want you to like get more power, but you convince other members that have a lot of shares that you're better or whatever, or you make a deal with them so you can buy their shares, and so the amount that you own from the company climbs, while the people that have the most shares but are not at like the 50% level, that's at least a bit of my understanding, can lose their power if like Vivendi in this case keeps climbing by doing sneaky practices by getting more and more shares. So
and it's a tightrope too, because like you think if you have a pie and everybody, like the controlling guys each own 10%, 5 of them own 10% of the pie, but then you decide to start throwing a bunch more filling into the pie to make it bigger, which is what issuing more shares will do. That just dilutes the whole pie. So then that 10% share becomes smaller because you made the pie bigger. And that pisses those guys off who own a chunk of their company. So then maybe they're like, screw you, I am going to sell to these guys. Yeah. And so it just gets really messy very quickly.
Watch Succession if you haven't already, because it really there's a lot of this happening there.
Yeah, a lot of corporate intrigue and all this.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and we got T Buckets saying, I mean Bungie and Sony, as in like that they also like acquired those. But I mean, I think actually Bungie getting away from Microsoft makes it even more obvious that they didn't want to be with Microsoft anymore. And actually for Destiny, Sony always had the deal with Activision, so it actually did make a lot of sense. And Bungie is like really eyeing on, hey, we want to go for the movie and TV show for our brands, and Sony is a way better partner for that. So,
and without a doubt, to this day, I mean, still somebody was asking earlier in the stream opinions of like Xbox versus PlayStation. PlayStation, I think, has demonstrated they are better at producing high quality titles consistently. Xbox has a crap ton of money and has taken an approach that's much more, in my mind, pro-consumer in terms of pricing models and all of that. For now, they could jack up the price of Game Pass a lot, and then that would change. But as of today, I think they have a more pro-consumer approach to the industry. And that's great, but it doesn't really matter if they can't get quality games out. And frankly, a lot of these partners that Xbox might be approaching for exclusivity deals might just be looking at it and saying, listen, you guys haven't proven that you can support these projects across the finish line. So we're just not that confident.
Yeah. For sure.
So
I want to do one small extra thing.
Yeah.
because you also put that in the title, and yeah, I'm that gatekeeper.
Yeah, you
So
are.
I
keep
say
us on
we
track.
have to we have to talk about the things that you yeah, do in the title and thumbnail. So yeah, Assassin's Creed Mirage, we actually had some new info from a interview with the lead producer on the game on the channel from Julien. I think I pronounced it right, French YouTuber. Pretty cool interview, and the biggest like highlight from it was that we finally know the playtime. But I wanted to start with something that I did not see reported that I still thought it was interesting because Joyce, who works for the channel, she put everything in a translator, again, French interview, and I read everything in English, and I thought it was still kind of interesting to get some behind the scenes info on Bordeaux as a studio. They're, of course, relatively new. They started in 2017, and they were basically starting with people from that were like seniors or veterans from other Ubisoft studios, including Montreal, Singapore, and Paris. They started to work on a Breakpoint. Like right now, again, they are the lead team on Mirage, but they started on Breakpoint. But like the lead producer said, that did not get the reception they had hoped for. Yeah, we all know that. So then they were like, okay, what can we do with this brand new team in Bordeaux? Let's go work on Assassin's Creed. And then the first thing they did was work on Wrath of the Druids, the DLC that, of course, came out 6 months or something, 7 months, May 2021, if I remember correctly. The first Valhalla post-launch Season Pass DLC. And then after that, they could continue to work on Valhalla. So they were like, hey, what about another DLC, a fourth one? Of course, we got Siege of Paris, then Dawn of Ragnarok, and they were like, hey, we can do another one because the post launch was doing well. They wanted more content, and they really liked the idea of the Mediterranean area and Basim as a character. But because it was first going to be a DLC for Valhalla, they had to make it work with A4 because if it's like a Valhalla DLC, you want to use all your gear and all that stuff. But then they were like, but wait, Basim as a character works way better. And then I thought it was also kind of interesting how they came up with the idea to go back to the roots. Like they usually say, yeah, it's the 15th year anniversary of the franchise. That's like one of the reasons. He said that it was totally part of it, but also that they, as developers themselves, are of course huge Assassin's Creed fans. And they, after all the big RPGs, Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla, wanted a smaller, more action adventure type experience as well. And they also mentioned that they spoke with the Ubisoft star players, which like a sort of huge Ubisoft fans that they keep inviting for certain projects. And I'm sure that those people said as well, hey, it would be cool to have the series go back to the roots. And also, and I never really thought of this, but for Bordeaux, making a like Valhalla or Odyssey type game was just not within their reach at that point because, again, they started in 2017. So it was very hard for them to make a big open world RPG. So, they went for this smaller title. It was like really, it made a lot of sense for them. Although right now there are more than 500 people working on Mirage, really a lot of studios. So it totally turned into a way bigger thing that they envisioned. But I think it's interesting how this small studio like suddenly is leading this huge 2023 Assassin's Creed game that, from what we're currently seeing, looks promising.
Yeah.
So.
Hopefully that's because it is that good. Hopefully that's because the executives or everybody working on it is like, oh shoot, you guys are actually okay. Green light, let's go. Take more people, take more marketing money. Hopefully that's what it is. And it's not just that they're like, holy crap, everything else is losing money. What are we gonna do? Okay, Assassin's Creed, go. Hopefully that's not it. But it seems like this is a group of very passionate people. As I've said in my like skeptical look videos, I think the studio behind a given project does matter. And this is a relatively new studio with a lot of developers who I'm sure are extremely talented, but it's not like this is being made by the team that has been at the helm of the franchise for years and years. You know, this is a fresh group. So That for me makes me cautiously optimistic, but it also means because they're fresh
sure.
that they haven't made a lot of the big blunders, except maybe Breakpoint, which was a pretty.
I mean, they probably did like one of the they probably did like small part of it because they were still pretty small back then. But we also learned, by the way, that Darby McDevitt, who has of course been like working on the series for a very long time, even on Revelations and stuff, like he is also doing additional writing for Mirage. So that makes me kind of more hopeful that we won't have like an Odyssey, what was the DLC, Legacy of the First Blade, sort of weird thing again.
It's just like, what's going on?
What is this, kid? And what's happening?
Wait, I'm a mom now. Yeah,
yeah.
It was weird for those of you who have not played the DLC. It kind of came out of nowhere. But I'm really optimistic. Like I get the vibe, and I will admit I have no evidence to back this up other than my gut feeling. I get the vibe that the people working on this are very proud of what they've done. Not in the typical way where it's like, and we can't wait for you to experience this product that passionate developers have put together. Like they actually seem like, yeah, we did this. We're very proud. And we'll see, you know, I'm not going to be pre-ordering or anything. I don't recommend anybody do that, but
I already got the collector's edition.
Oh my God.
I'm a bad person.
This guy.
No, but like these statues, man, look.
Oh, I will tell you.
I need to get them.
Let me show you what I just pre-ordered as well.
Okay.
Because I also just pre-ordered a collector's edition, and you know what? Frankly, I cannot throw stones because I am also guilty. But come on, dude, look at this. Look at this.
But that's,
Space
it's
Marine 2.
Different than pre-ordering a game, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, damn, son. Oh,
Isn't that good?
This one is great.
Like, come on. It's only like 8 inches tall, so it's not actually as big as it looks. But okay, somebody's gonna clip that.
I see Sunset Nebula saying Spider-Man. I did also get the Spider-Man collector's edition.
I think that was sold out by the time I saw it.
Yeah, it was sold out pretty fast. I didn't want. I also wanted the face plates, and I was like on a holiday, so I was like. Because even in the Netherlands, like the collection edition was like like you could still buy it 3 hours afterwards. But those like faceplates for the PlayStation sold out in minutes. Like they were like, that's pretty crazy.
Do you think they produced many of them though? I don't think they did. I'm guessing they didn't because they want you to buy the bundle.
And I don't. And maybe they looked at the sales of the previous faceplates and were like, that's not a lot, but this like different because for the first time ever we can get a dedicated sort of game hardware without buying a brand new hardware.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big deal. But like going back to Mirage, because I also thought like you were like kind of hoping that they were saying or that maybe after this they get like a second or like another shot at it. Of course, it's gonna be really about the reception to this game. But they said like so we would have liked to do even more in terms of like really going back to the roots. They obviously only worked on this game. Again, I say May 2021 is when Rev the Roots came out. That's when they started. So they've been working on this for 2 years and a bit. So it's not a long time. And I hope we can do even more in the future, is what they said.
Which, like, if this thing does pop off, they'll get the green light. I have no doubt. I mean,
yeah.
The fact that such a small studio, and again, it's so funny that we're like, oh, a small team that's now ballooned up to like 500 people. To put it in perspective, like Bethesda Game Studios, my understanding is currently they're still in the 300 employee range. They have support studios, they contract stuff out, but it's not like a huge studio, and they're making Starfield. And so to hear that they have like 500 people working on this thing that's going to be 25 to 30 hours, and this is considered a very small spin-off project, is just really funny to me.
Yeah, for sure. But again, in the shorter time, like Starfield, when did they start after Fallout 4?
Yeah, well, I've seen conflicting reports. Some people were saying that it was right after Fallout 4, and they've been doing, but like Todd Howard said in another interview that he was doing pre-production work, and they've been talking about and thinking about this game since around Skyrim and even before then. So in terms of like actual active development, it probably mostly got really into gear right after Fallout 76, because I've heard conflicting stories, but Jason Schreier reported that BGS was pretty involved with, or specifically Maryland, was more involved with Fallout 76 than they admitted, or than they, of course, talked about super actively. So I'm not exactly sure, but at the very least, like 5-6 years that they've been really working on Starfield.
With COVID, so that, of course, slowed things down. So that's...
so basically 6 months. I mean, COVID was just a time warp. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot.
You mentioned it, the playtime, though. Want to talk a bit more about that for Mirage?
Yeah, let's touch on that. As we've said, this is smaller in scope. It's not going to be a... Sorry, hold on.
$50 as well.
Yeah, $50. It's not going to be an
Assassin's Creed Valhalla
situation. It's going to be much more tight in focus. What are we looking at in terms of playtime?
Yeah, so they, of course, have a lot of playtesters like testing the game right now inside Ubisoft. And the average for a regular playtester to like finish the game, to complete it, is 20 to 24 hours. And if you want to do everything, it's like 25 to 30 hours. And if you would rush the game, it will be around the 20 hours. Although, I would argue probably way less than that. If you really are going to focus on only the main story, I think 15 hours is probably gonna do it. But
it also, a lot of, like, I ran into this with the Atomic Heart DLC that I just reviewed in a video today. Shout out main channel. Go check it out. They told me this brings 4 hours of content. If you're playing on like the normal difficulty, which is still tough, but if you're like decent at the game, you can get through the entire DLC in like 2 to maybe 2.5 hours. So they're adding like an hour and a half. They were almost like 30% extra time, assuming that you would just be bashing your head against the wall fighting bosses and stuff. So it's always tough to say like how much of that 20 to 24 hour range, how much of that 4 hours is exploring the city or photo mode, if that's there, or side quests. Like how do they define that bubble? But at the very least, I mean, I think
it's solid.
15 to 20 hours, if we're being a little bit more conservative with the estimate, that to me sounds perfect. Like,
it's like Revelations. It's like the first AC game. It's really comparable to that, which is fine.
Yeah. And
for this game that turned from a DLC into a game, and is like lower price.
And again, like I'm weird here. I miss the days of games that I could play and really enjoy over a weekend without having to like really try to stay up late and never doing anything else. I miss the days when I could do that. It's kind of frustrating that if I buy a game now, it's like, oh, I enjoy this, but I have to sign away the next month to finishing it. I know for some people that's like a selling point, and I think for certain games that is, but I just miss the days when like a game had good systems, was kind of lean. It was like a good prime rib or a good filet mignon, and you just get it, you enjoy it, and then you're done. I'm excited for this.
But like I think that's why it's nice that it's like a lower price. But I am seeing like that's always the case. That you think a lot of people would think like that, but I'm seeing a lot of people like, damn, that sucks. I want another Fallout. Like there are people out there that are also, of course, looking at a bang for your buck. Like there was this tweet actually yesterday, I think, from PC Gamer. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is a great game, but not for $60 because it's only 10 hours. It's like, that hurts. Okay, yeah, that's one way of looking at it. But there are a lot of people looking at that. And that's why I think games have gotten bigger.
Yeah.
While it wasn't needed. Because, then you get more money. Yeah, your money's more worth in the eyes of some people.
I agree. And it's born out of, like you said, the two kind of conflicting ways of talking about this, where on the one hand, people are saying that they want more bang for the buck. They want bigger games for the same price. But then when they get leaner, higher quality games, people are frustrated that they're being sold for $70, and expectations, frankly, at $70 for a shorter game are extremely high. Like, and even for some people, I don't think it matters if it was like The Last of Us in a different wrapper, just like one of the best games of the decade. If that came along today and launched at full price, $70, and it was 13 hours to get through, I think most people, or not, maybe not most, but a lot of people would just not even bother with it. They're like, yeah, I know everybody's saying it's the best game ever made, but 13 hours, really, dude? I'm good.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like the best way to manage it is like do the opposite of what Valhalla did. So not have. I mean, I talked about it many times, but just make sure that at least the main story is 30 hours or something. But if you want to spend more time in the world, then there is 100 hours of content. I think that's the best way to approach it. I think Origins, now that I think about it, was a pretty fine line. Was still a solid main campaign, but there were way more locations, side missions, and Filaki bosses to fight and Izu armors to get. Like, if you really wanted to go crazy, and all of people wanted that, it felt like a choice, and then you were rewarded for that. But you would still get a very cool story with a lot of cutscenes because they did not have to like make sure that like their budget was like spent equally between all the 100 hours of story content.
Yeah.
So
well, and that reminds me of the thing that happened before Cyberpunk launched, where everybody got really kind of nervous when they heard that Cyberpunk was only going to take 25 hours roughly to get through the main story. And the developers said, no, it's because we looked at the completion numbers. Only like 40% or 35% or whatever, it was a very low number, percent of players actually finished the main story in The Witcher 3.
That's still big.
Like,
yeah.
Still very, like, for a game
30,
that
40.
huge, is it pretty impressive. But when they're looking at it and they're like, this is a narrative game, we want you to get through the narrative, and only like 40% of you are getting through it, we think it would be better if all of you got through it or more of you got through it. So they shrunk the main story down. And to this day, it's actually like one of the things I kind of love and hate about Cyberpunk is that you'll just be playing it and then all of a sudden you reach the end of the story. And because of how they structured it, you kind of have to ignore that you're dying and go do side content before the game reaches a game over screen. But
yeah.
Anyway, it's smaller in scope. Mirage is shaping up to be a very interesting game.
We're gonna get another behind-the-scenes video hopefully soon because they've been doing those, so we get some new gameplay. Maybe Gamescom gives us some new stuff.
Yeah.
But I've been like I'm kind of like shaking here. I'm kind of stressed out here because I was like 1 foot inside the Jade beta, but I still don't have my invite.
Really?
So, because there's even not an NDA on it. So like that's starting tomorrow. So for people that don't know, that's the Chinese set in ancient China Odyssey style mobile game that looks very good. They're going to do a closed beta on August 3rd till the 10th, I think. And I was like in contact with Ubisoft. I even had like a DM from the community manager from Jade and even an email. And they were like, yeah, we're going to get you in. And I see some other people say, I'm already in. They're still waiting because servers go live tomorrow. But still.
It's funny you say that because almost word for word, I am in the exact same position you are. Where like I've also been in contact with them, and my understanding was that we were gonna get access early before even the closed beta, and it's just been silent, and it's very weird. So
okay,
who knows?
now I feel better.
Yeah, it's not just you.
Maybe now and maybe because I was told August 1st, 3rd at the latest.
Yeah.
But maybe we still tomorrow. It's like, hey, you can already play. Maybe they didn't want us to wait for like a waiting. The servers are not live screen. Maybe. We will see. It's weird though because they've been like very communicative, and then the moment I say, hey, I didn't get in my invite yet, while I do see other people getting it, it's kind of weird. But yeah, that would be cool though. It's not multiplayer though. I thought it was like, could you raid your character, like beat you in PvP? No, that's not the case.
Yeah, that is a surprising choice. I just assumed that that's what they were gonna do. But
there is a friend list. So you can see, oh, my friend is like beating up this boss in, I don't know.
Oh, maybe they'll do like the kind of like crap, what game was I playing recently where like a player gets killed by some enemy. Oh, Shadow of War, I was playing that, where like a friend got killed by this particular orc, so you got to go and kill him to get revenge, and then you and your friend get a little XP payout or something.
That actually might be the case, where that you have like a clan, so you can like talk with the clan, and then if they all like work towards a certain goal, you all get a reward or something.
Mm-hmm.
The microtransactions are not live. I'm mostly curious about that. So maybe we get like a very solid experience, and then when it comes out, it's like
just a disaster.
nothing like it. Yeah, we
Yeah.
will see though. But I'm curious, and hope tomorrow we get the email.
Yeah, fingers crossed, and maybe we can talk about it. I'm not sure, because like we said, we just haven't gotten a lot of those details yet. But anyway, any closing thoughts? What are you going to be playing over the next week before the next episode?
I'm actually not able to say that.
Oh, you
And
cheeky little.
and I hope Jade. I
Yeah.
hope Jade. So I'm
Yeah.
actually trying to finish this other game so I can make the video and then go full on Jade. But again, I kind of lost hope on Jade, but now I kind of have hope again. We will see. But that is my thing, and then the next big title will be Starfield. I'm not gonna play Armored Core. I'm not gonna play. There's nothing else coming out. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be Starfield after that. And I still got like a holiday next week in Italy
Oh,
with some
baby.
friends.
So jelly.
Full week. And
Ooh.
then after that, there's like a festival in the Netherlands where I'm going to. After that, it's Gamescom. And then before you know it, it's Starfield.
Oh, baby. It's coming.
Crazy.
It's coming.
And you?
I am playing 2 games I can't talk about, so those are kind of all consuming right now. Hope to try some Jade. I'm gonna try. I've committed to everybody. I'm gonna try Armored Core, but the community has been so heavy in the gatekeeping, so incredibly toxic. It's been a huge turnoff. Like just such a huge turnoff. Frankly, so it makes me kind of just not want to bother with getting really into the game and doing extensive coverage on it, because I just don't want to deal with the headache of it. Because no matter
Turn
what
off
you
comments.
say, yeah, we'll turn off comments. That's another animal. But it's just like, I don't know why communities gatekeep like they do. There's a lot of people, like Crimson is somebody that's in our chat all the time and is a big fan of Armored Core and is always super supportive and explains kind of what he sees in the franchise and everything. But if you say anything at all about something like Armored Core that is not overwhelmingly positive, you will get stomped on. It's insane. Like I said something almost word for word exactly what Skillup said in his video a few days later, because he got to play the game, where I was just like, I don't know, man, all of these games set in like factories and with these graphics and everything that they did, it just looks very bland, especially coming off of the art design in Elden Ring, which was fantastic. It just looks very flat. And you would have thought that I like sacrificed a kitten on stream. Like everybody, like people lost their minds. And it's like, this is like a demonstrable thing. We can point at it and show that it's flat.
I totally get that you wanna not engage with that. Yeah. Although, like a skeptical look at it, it is kind of juicy.
There's plenty of juice buried within that. It's just so funny. Like when you take a skeptical look at a game that people, or from a studio that people like to beat up on. Like if I do a skeptical look at Mirage, people eat it up. But if I do a skeptical look at Armored Core 6, I might get kidnapped and end up like on a beach somewhere dead. So
yeah,
it's just really, really funny.
AI Luke returns with like very positive takes on Armored Core.
A black eye, my arms in a sling. I just want to tell you guys that I've seen the light. Armored Core is amazing.
Yeah. Brown is my favorite color.
I love games that are flat and look like PlayStation 3 releases. I love it. Oh, God.
Second place, by the way, in the comments, and then we really are going to go. But did you finish Final Fantasy 16 Raptor? And if so, did you feel about it? I finished it. It's totally, I think, my game of the year as well. Although I do think Spider-Man is probably going to exceed that. Because I, at one point, was like, the story, I don't care really about it anymore, and I hope that would not happen, but it did. So the really like the final 10% of the game I didn't really like, but apart from that, I thought it was amazing.
Interesting. Do you think it's worth somebody jumping into if they're on the fence?
Yeah.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've been on the fence.
You can still stop halfway through. No, it's
stop
not halfway,
before it gets bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still amazing. I really think that the sales are like not what they want. Like they sold a lot at the first time, and then I want to see like those sales in a few months. I hope a lot of people give it a shot, but it's like on the same level in terms of budget as God of War or Horizon, and everyone has already stopped talking about it.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy.
And I think that there's going to be some interesting dissections of that game and kind of what went wrong in the marketing, because I think it did sell decent, but not as well as they were hoping pretty clearly.
No, drop the 16. That's number one.
Yeah.
Like they got to get rid of that. It's time.
Yeah, I think so too. And then I'll answer one other, let's see.
Armored Boar.
Armored Boar.
Don't say that.
Tires screech, gunshots
Too
hurt.
late. It's too late.
Oh, dude.
People are gonna clip this.
Maybe I'll just like lean into it. I'll just do like
Yeah.
one of those hate bait videos or something. No, not really. I don't like doing that.
I'm gonna go to Gamescom and people that are in line for like 5 hours to play, and I'm like gonna say, "This is freaking. Why are you wasting 5 hours for Armored Boar?"
Yeah, or like you also wait in the line, you get to play it, and then you like very loudly while you're playing it, surrounded by everybody else. You're just like, "Oh my god, this is so boring."
Oh yeah.
Just like watch as everybody slowly approaches
Hey, like
you with
turn up the
shivs.
brightness. I can't see anything.
Yeah,
here.
I'm sorry. I don't think my screen's on. It looks incredibly flat, like the monitor's turned off.
What is this game running on PS3? Can I like look?
Yeah.
This is like the PS5 version.
Just very genuine. I'm sorry, guy. I think you made a mistake. I seem to be running the PlayStation 3 version of the game. It's weird. I don't. Dude, even now, there's gonna be people losing their minds because they just can't take the joke. But it's funny. It's funny. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining us this week on this episode of Free Roam. Like I said, we got all the buzz, whatever distribution stuff sorted. So this will be available on all podcasting apps that you can think of. So go check it out over there. Ratings are greatly appreciated. But with all that said, thanks for chilling with us. Much love. We'll see you next week. And until then, stay safe. Much love, everybody. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.